Ted Cruz was on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert last night, and they talked about Ronald Reagan, and that video was trending today. Let's watch it, and I want your thoughts.
Well, let me ask about Reagan for a second.
Yes.
Is that Democrats, and Republicans have had reasons why they liked Ronald Reagan. But does today's modern Republican Party reflect some of the things that Reagan did? Reagan raised taxes. Okay. Reagan actually had a amnesty program for illegal immigrants. Neither of those things would allow Reagan to be nominated today.
All right. But Ronald Reagan also signed the largest tax cut in history. Mm-hmm. He reduced government regulations from Washington.
He did.
And economic growth exploded.
All right, John, that wasn't the whole story that Colbert said. Tell us the whole story.
Well, if you look at everybody, every president you're talking about, they're a product of their times. When you're talking about the illegal alien amnesty Reagan signed on for example, there were 2 million illegal aliens here, and the deal was we'll have a one-time amnesty in exchange for getting these security problems fixed so it'll never happen again. Today, we've got somewhere between 10 and 20 million illegal aliens here, and we've already had the one-time amnesty.
Yeah.
So, you know, I could understand him doing it at the time. The tax increase was after he had a huge tax cut that got the economy charging. So you've got to look at everything in context of the times. In Reagan's case, he'd already won a lot of these victories, and so it's kind of a deal where conservatives in the country had won the battles, and he threw the Democrats a few sops at the end. And I got to tell you, I think Cruz is right. I don't think you go back and do a dumb deal that made sense 30 years ago because it made sense 30 years ago.
Exactly. All right, also trending today, John, Carly Fiorina's interview on The Tonight Show. Here you go.
Ben Carson's in a lot of trouble now because he's saying that he would not advocate a Muslim being president.
Well, I think that's wrong. You know, it says in our Constitution that religion cannot be a test for office. It is also true that this country was founded on the principle that we judge each individual and that anyone of any faith is welcome here.
I could almost tangibly feel her popularity declining on that answer, John, but what's your take?
I think her popularity should decline because she's a squishy rhino who was a terrible CEO, who's also an establishment favorite, but that's beside the point. As to what Ben Carson said, I agree with what he said in his clarification. Yes, I would support a Muslim president as long as he's against Sharia law, as long as he's pro-Israel, long as, you know, he's fine on all these issues. That's how I feel about it. But I mean, you know, I think a Muslim could be president too, so my popularity may decline as well.
Trending today, also Hillary Clinton's top aide, Huma Abedin, joined Twitter and used her very first tweet to criticize Ben Carson. John, did you see that tweet?
I did see that tweet. Yeah, she was taking a shot at him over the Muslim president comments. She is going to get a lot of interesting stuff on Twitter after what her husband did there.
Yeah, don't you think so? All right. Also trending today, Ahmed Mohamed, he dropped out of school. Why did the clockmaker feel the need to drop, or should I say the clock dissector, because I think that's a more accurate description. Why do you feel the need to drop out of school, John?
Well, at this point, it's a whole big mess. Now, listen, I have a completely different take on this than most other people. I would give him the benefit of the doubt. I usually give people who are not in the public eye. Like if one of the Kardashian clan took the clock in, I'd be like, the kid was trying to create a bomb stir and try to get some publicity. I'm just going to assume this was a dumb 14-year-old kid. I generally don't like zero-tolerance policies. I would have preferred that they didn't call the police. I think all these people who are out there saying, though, oh, poor Ahmed, he was discriminated against Islamophobia, it's ridiculous. Hey, if the UN thinks that it's Islamophobia and the White House does, try taking a clock there and see how well that goes over. See if they'll let you in the building with it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of silly. I feel bad for the kid at this point because it's a big mess. I don't know what his motivations are. I give him the benefit of the doubt because he's 14 years old, and I know how dumb I was and how, let's be honest, dumb pretty much every kid is at 14. Maybe he had good motives, maybe he didn't. I would give him the benefit of the doubt. But I understand at this point the whole thing's a big mess. I can see them pulling out of school.
It's a big mess, and I feel differently on that one than you do. I think if that, I think that teacher did exactly the right thing, because if anything had happened and the teacher hadn't just called the police in pretty much short order, certainly her policies would have been questioned. Then you just don't risk children's lives for what you hope is not a hoax, as it appears to have been. Anyway, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani says that their "Death to America" statement doesn't really mean that they hate Americans and want them to die. They actually love Americans. John, aren't you so glad to know that they love us?
Yeah, it's kind of like the liberals when they call us Nazis. That's really a statement of love. They don't really think we're Nazis. They just saying that. Yeah, and Iran, oh, I'm sure they love us. Exactly. They're chanting "Death to America." Hey, so about all those Americans they killed in Iraq, well, we were over there fighting, and they did. Gee, was that an act of love, too? I mean, nobody believes this who's smart. Only stupid people like Geraldo buy into this kind of stuff. So, yeah, you know, I don't know. They should know better.
All right, also trending today, Noam Chomsky says today's Democrats are what used to be moderate Republicans, and that none of the other candidates are that much different than Donald Trump. What do you think of that statement, John?
Well, Noam Chomsky, if you've read him, and I have, is basically a communist/anarchist who hates America. He really does. If you read his stuff, the theme of everything he writes is America is the source of all evil in the world. It's almost like the devil made me do it. Who made that bad thing happen? America. He really and truly, he's thought of as a leftist guy, and he actually does influence a lot of liberals, but he really, at the end, hates you, too. He would be as happy as anybody if Al-Qaeda blows something up over here. Our fault. What else could they do? So I just have to tell you, I'm not surprised to hear him say that. He waited a while, you know, waiting until we're getting deep in the Obama presidency, but that's how he really feels about everybody here. He's teaching that kind of hatred. So think about that before you tell somebody to read Noam Chomsky.
All right. Well, John, thank you for being with us. You can find his work at rightwingnews.com. Thanks, John.